Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Irene and I'm a registered dietitian, and today's pediatric nutrition case study is on the topic of scurvy. As always, this case study is 100% made up but is based on a variety of my experiences. Today's scenario is patient E is a 3-year-old female with a history of autism that presents with refusal to walk. The dietitian has been consulted to see the patient due to patient's picky eating and low weight. Parents report patient has always been on the smaller side and she appears to be following her own growth curve. Patient's anthropometric measurements are 11.5 kilos in weight and 90 centimeters height. As always, we're going to first look at her anthropometric measurements. We are using the CDC 2 to 20-year-old growth curve, and she is 3-year-old, so 36 months. So this does put her on the smaller side. She is in the 4th percentile for her weight, 16th percentile for her height, and 7.5 percentile for her BMI. We don't have a whole ton of anthropometric history here, but let's just say, for example, that she is on the smaller side and she has been plotting on the smaller side following this around 4 percentile-ish growth curve. I feel like I see this pretty often in the hospital, especially just kids on the smaller side, and sometimes they're okay. They are following their own growth curve. Maybe it's like a genetic thing or something to do with their condition. So we don't have any actual previous anthropometric data to go off of to calculate her weight change, but let's just assume that she's meeting her goals. So goals for her would be to gain 5 to 6 grams per day. Her BMI is on the lower side though, and with the Z-score of negative 1.44, it actually classifies her as mild malnutrition. Now, whether or not you will actually code for this, I don't know. It's kind of up to provider discretion, I feel like. Physically though, she probably looks very appropriate, just kind of on the thinner side. Now, going to talk with family, dad reports that patient has a very limited diet and has several feeding aversions. They are in the process of working on getting her into feeding therapy, but right now the only foods that she accepts are peanut butter crackers, pancakes, and cereal. Parents are not aware of any food allergies or dietary restrictions. Patient is not currently on any vitamins or supplements at home. So immediately when I kind of hear this stuff, the first thing that my mind is going through is like, what are some of the possible nutrient deficiencies that we might be seeing here? A big one that jumps out to me is going to be scurvy or vitamin C deficiency. And that's because this kid actually isn't really eating any fruits and vegetables at all. They have very strong feeding aversions. Some kids have feeding aversions to certain textures or to certain colors of foods and things like that. This is something that you see very often in like general pediatrics. Lots of kids with autism and lots of feeding aversions as well. And so the issue with feeding aversions is that you can develop a lot of deficiencies because you don't eat a varied diet. And for this kid specifically, they don't eat any fruits or vegetables. They are likely missing out on a lot of the vitamins and nutrients that you would find in these fruits or vegetables. Vitamin C is going to be a really big one because that's something that really isn't supplemented in processed foods. Like, for example, she's eating a lot of like crackers and wheat-based products, and these are all supplemented with the B vitamins and also fortified with iron. And so the likelihood of her having a deficiency in one of these is pretty low, but vitamin C is really something that you don't find that is or can really be added into these types of foods. So that's definitely one to look out for. Vitamin D could be low depending on, sun exposure and things like that. The fat soluble vitamins, I don't really see deficiencies in those as often, but I've really only seen them in patients with like malabsorption issues. And so the first time I had a kid like this, and there have been multiple times unfortunately, I was like, scurvy's kind of like something that I never thought that I would have to like deal with anymore, because nowadays like food is so readily available and like fruits and veggies are very readily available, but it does make sense that if a kid isn't eating them, that they're not getting these nutrients. So the first time I saw a kid like this, it really took me by surprise. And then every time after that, I was pretty much able to pinpoint when a kid had scurvy. So typically, at least what we're taught in school, is scurvy is characterized by like a lot of poor wound healing, gum disease, anemia, and weakness. But what I have seen in the pediatric population is this refusal to walk, and that is exactly what this patient came in with, what a lot of patients come in with. I think that the refusal to walk probably comes from having weakness and also like poor bone health because of the vitamin C deficiency, and so it manifests this way, which is kind of interesting to think about based off of what parents are telling me, I would estimate that the patient is likely getting enough calories if they are following their growth curve appropriately and not losing weight. They likely are meeting their calories. And to estimate their energy needs and their fluid needs, I typically go off of the DRI. This is an otherwise pretty healthy kid, so I will just use the DRI for her age. So that'll give me about 70 to 80 calories per kilogram if she's kind of like in the sedentary / low active range. And that's typically where I just kind of start out at, especially because this kid right now is doing a whole ton. They're not walking, they're not moving around. For the fluid needs, I'm going to use Holiday Seeger. So remember, it is 50 milliliters for every kilogram over 10 pounds. And so she's 11.5 minus 10 times 50 plus 1,000. So her fluid needs are going to be 1,075 milliliters per day. I typically shoot for around 85% of that minimum. So my recommendations are going to be to continue with the regular diet. Parents continue to offer a variety of foods. Patient may not accept them, but we still have to continue offering them. Want to encourage fluid intake of at least 30 fluid ounces daily. Meet about 85% of fluid requirements. Make sure that they're not getting dehydrated. For the scurvy portion of this, we're going to start vitamin C at 100 milligrams twice daily for about a month. I don't have any like great sources for dosing vitamin C exactly. This is just kind of what I've seen across the board from like various different articles, and this is kind of what we just like go with. And then we're also going to start a daily multivitamin with iron in it because she has such a limited diet, so she is probably missing out on a lot of micronutrients, and we just want to prevent any additional deficiencies from developing and landing them in the hospital. So this patient was relatively straightforward because I've seen it before, and they kind of almost always are these sort of like cookie cutter situations. The foods that they typically eat are always kind of like more wheat-based foods, and they don't eat fruits and vegetables. That's kind of the big thing, is if a kid is not eating fruits and vegetables and it's been going on for a long time, it's likely that they will develop scurvy if they're not supplementing appropriately. Unfortunately, it's just something that I see a lot in the autism population. This is a pretty short and sweet case study. I just thought that it was interesting. It was never something that I really like learned about before or had really heard about either. So I just wanted to share it with everyone. No real heavy like math here or anything, but this pretty much concludes this video. I have a couple of other case studies on my channel as well as a ton of other dietetics content. Just look for the dietetics playlist. But I hope that you enjoyed this video and found it a little fun and interesting. If you did, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.